allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open forum, thank you. So we'll go right into our presentation.
Okay.
Christy Williams.
Thanks. So I'm Christy Williams, I'm the town manager. I just wanted to have the opportunity to show the Council on Aging some of the updated plans and to just talk about next steps related to the community center. One thing I wanted to start with was to just point out that on the town's website, so right on, I can just go here. So if you go right to the town website, if anyone has questions, or right at the bottom of the website here is all these spotlights. And if you click through the arrows, you'll get to the community center. And everything there is to know about the community center is right here on this web page. And we keep it very frequently updated. So this here is the presentation I'm going to show today, the schematic design. But I just wanted to point out that everything that we've done since we looked at purchasing the building is on here with links to documents. So if anyone has questions or wants to sort of be refreshed as to how we got to where we are, this is a really great tool. And certainly the senior center staff is very well aware of this. So if you have trouble getting to it or you want stuff printed out, I'm sure that they would help with that. So on October 8th, the architects presented the updated schematic design for the project. And as all of you know, we've had many opportunities for engagement to sort of get to this point. And so this is the sort of the final deliverable of their current contract, which is the schematic design. So I'm not gonna talk through all of their slides because there are many of them, all available on the website. You can watch it. I think I heard some of you saying it was hard to see the slides. Yeah. So hopefully this is helpful, and then looking at it later on the website might also be helpful. You all know where the building is located. This is just to show that there's some work to be done outside the building. And some of those things are, if you look in the, just got louder.
Yeah, and then it'll shut down.
Okay. So if you see that yellow box there right on the front of the building, that's just identifying that there's some sidewalk repairs needed. Also, there's a blue arrow there showing that we would want to be adding some handicap spaces, which was part of some of that came out of the community engagement, was the need for some additional handicap spaces. It also is showing that in the back of the building, you'll see as we go through that there's a proposal for an additional entrance in the back of the building. And so there's some work that would need to be done back there as well. So the way that we've been showing the first floor of the building, as we've been talking about it, included all of this colored area here, but it also had previously included sort of this back part as colored in, where the veterans offices would be, some community lockers, some upgraded bathrooms. That was all part of what we were originally showing. As we worked through cost estimates and have identified kind of how we might want to phase the project in order to being cognizant of the tax burden, we're currently proposing a phase 1, which would just be the senior center here with the colored in space. So that's proposed for phase 1. And so the article that's coming before town meeting tonight is to so this is schematic design, is to fully design this 100% through bid documents so we know the actual cost of construction for this project that's being proposed.
Sorry, it's only the ones you said that are colored in?
Only the colored in
So
space.
that blanket, that blank area is, because I've been to it, but I'm trying to
Sure,
orient
yeah.
myself.
So this all in red here would be future phase.
But where's the entrance?
The entrance is here,
Okay,
where it is currently.
okay, so the entrance is there.
So
And-
what's down below to the left of that future build on the bottom?
So that's a good question. So let me go through. So it's, up at the top here is the multi-purpose room. This is a proposed living room lounge area. This is the kitchen, this blue. This has additional bathrooms. This here is staff offices and reception. Here is here are some offices. So the public health nurse office would be there, as well as just some additional professional offices if people want to come in and have more private conversations, or if one of the things we've talked about doing is using this building as an emergency shelter. So we might need an office for that. Not a dedicated office, but a place where they could set up. This here is a card room. This is a conference room, or it could be used as a classroom. This is proposed right now as a billiard room. And then these are both program rooms here. So that's what this initial phase would be. And then there's a lot of discussion about adding a second staircase and a second elevator to the building. And there was a lot of concern about the noise if it was sort of an open staircase. So in this design, there's an elevator here, which would be closed off, and then an enclosed staircase here. So there is that ability for additional access, but it's not as sort of grand or open as we had talked about, and that's based on the community feedback.
So the colored in areas are areas that need to be built out. That bottom area, which is where the pool room and the something else, the conference room, they are rooms that exist now?
No,
That don't need building?
No, they would become part of phase one.
Oh, so the bottom is phase one, even though
Yeah,
it's
so
not colored.
phase one goes from here all the way up. It actually
Okay.
is colored, but it's a really light, so sorry about
Okay.
that. So it's anything that's not the white here. So
Okay.
this is part of it.
That's, okay.
Yes,
good.
sorry
Yes.
about that.
I
To
could-
clarify,
yeah.
nothing of that exists today. That's just one big open,
Right.
nothing.
Christie, how many square feet is that?
The
About?
total square feet of that is 15,900 square feet. So just about twice the size of this building.
Are those rooms labeled? In other words, if we pull it up on our computer, can we?
Yes, yep, you'll be able to see. So I just want to clarify, so this is schematic design. So one of the very first things that we would do with the funding, if it's approved this evening, would be to confirm this final design. So there would be some more outreach beyond like this meeting. But we're very close, I think, given the months of engagement that we've done. So I'm gonna keep going and then maybe I can,
One more question. I just want to clarify, so that if we do approve the funds for this tonight, there's still an opportunity to tweak this.
to tweak, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like, for example, if we have enough people that don't like the idea of that staircase, it can still be removed, possibly save a little money.
So I'm gonna get into that a little bit. I think. Before, when we were talking about phase one, we were talking about also doing some work on the second floor. Right now, at this point, we've decided we're not gonna do anything on the second floor. We're just gonna leave it alone. So I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity yet to take a class over there, but it is functional. And certainly there's work to be done, but at this point, we think we would just, in phase one, leave it alone and only do the first floor. So this is showing the second floor as it currently exists. The only impact to the second floor, of course, would be if the staircase and the elevator were added, which is where that red box is.
Isn't family services already in there?
No. Recreation is in there. The recreation department is in there. This is just showing, if you haven't been there, some of the things that that need to be done at some point is to just really flatten the floor. There's a lot of different types of flooring. There's this step up here because there's electrical under the floor. So this is just kind of showing that, but that's not part of phase one. as proposed currently. So the second, the funding that's being proposed tonight, in addition to going through to construction bid documents to get an actual construction cost for this here, which we just looked at, it's also to do design development for these future spaces. So the future spaces in the first slide, you remember, were just blank. This is sort of what we're thinking and what we need more feedback on in order to do design development for the future phases. So what this is showing is we would add some community lockers here. So for people who are using the building, you have people using this building who store some stuff here, that would be here. It would add a low impact exercise room to the senior center, and it would also add an arts and crafts room to the senior center. Some work would be done to the bathrooms. In the back here, it would add, there's a break room that would be set up for the break room, and then some veterans offices would move here. And this is a shared lounge area and a lobby. And really this shared lounge area, we think would probably be used often by the veterans. But if we were to build this theater, which has come out of community engagement, this sort of auditorium area, it could also be used if there was an evening performance. People might congregate here before they go in. The idea of this room is that, and this is really early, and this is more of a concept plan, and this would be part of, again, what's being funded tonight, or what might be funded tonight, to do more development. But it's proposed that all of these bleachers here would be able to push against the wall, and you would really be able to hold functions in here. So where this room up here is, I might say it wrong, is 2,500 square feet, this room is 4,000. So you would actually be able to hold larger events in this room as proposed. And then they've added this other program room up here, which is about, I can't even read it, hundreds of square feet. But so, and then that would really increase the size of the senior center, and that, you'd have full use of the downstairs, and it would have this auditorium. So, and then this is storage, which is like a mezzanine area in the back. So again, the money for tonight would be bring this to construction documents and further design this sort of white future area.
Chrissy, so the bottom part, the L, it won't be the L part of that.
It would stop,
It'll just,
right, this is phase 2.
so that's future senior
Future.
center.
Right,
Anything, okay.
yep, anything in red.
It's straight down here, I just wanna make sure, because we're talking senior center.
Yep,
Will operate.
yep,
And that red part is part of that 15,000 square foot that you called out?
no. All the colored area is 15,900, and then the red would add an additional almost 2,000 square feet. These two rooms would add 2,000 square feet. This would make this total space is just under 30,000.
Christie, putting in windows is part of.
Yes.
Because it is, I've been there, it's so dark.
It is dark, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so you can see here, so there's these little white sort of
Those are-
spaces, those are additional windows, and that's a cost driver for sure.
Oh, but very necessary.
Yes, yeah, we definitely, I think that's there were a couple things that we knew, and that was one of them that we had to
But
add.
now
to this.
only those two windows in the phase
Nope,
one?
no, so it's all of these here, and then along the back there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So this is just showing, again, kind of what stuff that we'll flesh out in design development, but this is just showing what I was mentioning earlier, is that you would be able to push, we're currently talking about it, you'd be able to push the bleachers against the wall, and you could have banquet seating, you could do the theater in the round. That's kind of what they're leaning towards right now, because if you do this last one here with the stage would take up a lot of room and you would have fewer seats. But this is all stuff that we'll talk more about as we do more community engagement. And then this is what would be proposed for the second floor in a future phase. And so still not touching a lot of what's already there. doing some additional storage, adding that walking track that people have asked about. And then adding some, like this one shows a toddler room, a teen room, and a STEM room here. And then this would sort of remain open for play. And then doing some changing here when you first walk in right now. It's the front desk, and then behind it was some other desks where people I think would sign up for the gym. This would move the reception desk here so that it would have views to this entrance, but also to folks coming up the elevator. And then this would become this is proposed right now as a party room, because we anticipate kids' birthday parties. So
Christy, the exercise classes for seniors that we currently have would be held on the second floor?
That's where they
yes,
are.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I've seen, yeah.
yeah. So that's up here, and that room isn't proposed to really be changed.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it will be changed because we're putting a ballet bar in there next week.
Oh.
Just a little change. We're putting a ballet bar in there next week.
Yeah, I'm looking for like a jacuzzi, a massage table.
There is a sauna currently
It
here,
is.
but I don't think we have it accessible yet.
Okay.
So again, these white spaces we would further develop. I think one of the things that we're finding, as the recreation's using that space, kind of thinking through how they would use it. But I think one of the things that we think that this space offers currently, before we've done any work to it, is the potential to relocate the library temporarily in this building, either on this level or on the first level in that back space where we're not doing any work. So that's a conversation we need to have, but we think that there's opportunity there. So let's skip through. These are some of the things that might be discussed when we're talking about phase one, because we need to talk about finishes and we need to talk about kind of what we want the feel of the senior center to be. Colors and different materials that we want to use. These are renderings. This is just a disclaimer that says no one chose anything, no one made any decisions. This is just so you can sort of see what it might look like. But this is kind of the way it's sort of laid out now, is this is where you would walk in. Unlike, I think, what we've shown before, where you would walk in and sort of see this grand staircase, it's actually like tucked in the back. So it gives you that internal access without sort of being an inviting way to get to the second floor from outside the building. This is just showing that like lounge area, and in the back is that multi-purpose room. The idea of having the kitchen with potentially a little cafe where you could purchase coffee or, well, I don't actually know how it would all run. We've figured that out. The lounge area. This is a proposal for the multi-purpose room. Again, nothing's been decided.
What's the capacity of that room?
I have some more slides on that. So this is showing that multi-purpose room. Oh, this is right there. So the way that it's laid out, it would depend on the tables that are chosen. So they're looking at sort of two options. So one is to have table and chair storage within the room. And then that's laid out with 126 to 144 at the tables, 100 people could sit at the tables. If you moved the storage to a different location, it was 168 to 192. And then if you were to do like lecture seating, you could have about 240 people.
So what I tried to figure out the spacing there, this is about the same kind of seating as our current room. But if we had like one of the big band groups that we've had, they need like 2 rows of tables removed. And so that basically we wouldn't have any more big party spacing than we do now.
Yeah.
That's why that extra room on the side, which isn't going to be till the next phase, would really be a necessary function for that.
Right. So my understanding is that there was about 175 people at the the large lunch that you recently did. So this room would accommodate that. What's that?
St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, yeah, thanks. So we think that we could accommodate, and then you wouldn't want the room to be as large as the auditorium, obviously, because you wouldn't want competing spaces. But yes, I think that
But there'd be a gap there, is all I'm saying.
there might be,
There'd
yeah.
Phase one
there
and
might
phase,
be.
they would be phase one and phase two, so there'd be another couple of years after, a year or two, whatever.
Well, so one of the things I think is
Really
important to
large.
mention is that we would be, even though those spaces were white and they're for a future phase, there would be a requirement to do some life safety things in that space. And so there would be opportunity to use that space on some level. It wouldn't be sort of as inviting as the photos that I showed, but there would be opportunity, so. So this is just to show you the cost. So this is not what's being requested tonight, but I want to walk through it. So right now, phase one is estimated. It's all estimates because it's schematic design. The senior center is estimated to be $9,450,000, and then another $1 million to do that life safety stuff I mentioned for the entire first floor. This second section here shows the cost of the centralized elevator and the connecting stair. So that's about $1 million, which is what we've been hearing. I think, as we sort of work through all of that, I think ultimately what we would do is we would bid out the project, and those would be alternatives, so we could clearly identify exactly what the additional cost of those would be, and then I think we could make a more informed decision about whether or not we want to include that in the phase one. And then also part of phase one is the rooftop HVAC units. So I think there's 19 of them, and they need to be, they would be replaced with more efficient units. So they're projected right now at $800,000, but they're called out separately because there's rebates with the gas company that would reduce that by $500,000. So the total amount currently is $11,750,000. There's a lot more work to do in sort of refining this, and then sort of identifying funding sources and things like that. But that's where we are right now, and we need to do that additional design work to figure out the actual number.
Christine, are there any American Rescue Plan funds available for this?
We're sort of working through the rest of that, but not anything that would be significant. I mean, I think there's $150,000 left in that.
That's all?
Yep.
So Christy, last week Alicia sent out an email about the fire alarm system, that it was basically gonna have to be started from scratch or so, because the parts aren't available and whatever. Is that included in?
The life safety.
Okay.
The other thing that you want to account for is that you're going to save, due to the inefficiency replacing the old unit with the new, more efficient unit. There's going to be some savings for that time period, right, for the first couple of years.
Yeah, no, we definitely want to show that return on investment. This is future phase, so it's shown as project 2, doesn't mean it all has to happen at once, but this is just breaking out all of the other things that I showed for the future. One of the things I really want to point to is this sort of second section here, the 1.2 million or 1.29 million. These are really what we would consider typically like a capital project. And so, when you come to town meeting, every annual town meeting, we have a whole article with multiple pieces for our capital needs. And so some of these might actually be able to be done more cost effectively through that capital project, as opposed to being part of the whole construction project, which has all the OPM costs and all the other overhead and things like that. So we're really looking at ways that we can tackle some of these needs. So the first one, in case you can't see it, is required building roof maintenance and repairs. So it's just repairs that we need to do at some point. The parking lot stuff that I mentioned might be able to be done in working with our DPW and existing contractors. The swimming pool renovation, again, that $400,000 includes all of that overhead as part of a building project, but it really could be a standalone project where we could get that pool ready to go maybe sooner. And then the last piece on here is EV charging stations, which, you know, we can figure out and see if we can get grants and things like that. That's just sort of something that we might want to have. And then down here, this one here, 970. I guess we're missing a lot of zeros over here, but I don't know how that happened. Anyway, so this one here is $970,000, the emergency generator, because the idea is that this building would become a shelter. We have actually already identified a grant that we think would reduce the cost of this, so continue to work on that type of thing. So, I think the one online, yeah. So, so this is really just showing kind of phase one, future costs, and trying to really be clear about what the funding for tonight is asking to, or what the money being asked for tonight is looking to fund. And I think that's, this slide was created just to show, right now our architects and OPMs are estimating a 5% escalation rate per year just for deferring any of these projects. That's just a point to know. I think that we've all approached this, and the select board has approached this as a phased project. So it's just something for us to know, but would add cost to wait. But I think we know that. We've seen that before. That's it. Yes.
One of the things that was discussed at one of the charrettes was the veterans' desire to have access to a space where they can have a large meeting, a gathering of not just the Westborough vets, but maybe somebody else too. And the discussion came up that they could use that space in the middle of the building. There's not even a doorway for them to get from the veterans area into that space. Unless my eyes are deceiving me.
Well, it's hard to see. I'm just gonna look.
And I was going to volunteer to bring my skill saw down.
Yeah, so, the veterans offices are here. There's a door here that would lead you right in here, and then there's also the ability to access from over here.
Okay.
Yep.
But they could use that space, excuse me, they could use that space for a gathering.
Yeah, so like any other area, I mean, this area would be scheduled, but yeah,
Even though
absolutely.
unfinished.
Oh, no. They actually wouldn't, in the way that it's being proposed right now is that the veterans wouldn't move yet. They wouldn't move until phase two because the offices wouldn't be built. Once we figure out if the library will be there or not, we can have discussions about how we could use that space.
So those veterans offices that are in the back are not there?
They're not in phase one.
I know, but they don't exist as office spaces? Oh, okay.
No.
There's a couple of walls that are in there that are.
Yeah, so, but we wouldn't move them when it's not finished. That's right.
And the veterans could still continue to use the multipurpose room
Yeah.
at the seniors, like they have in the past too, so.
Yep. Yes.
So Christy, you said that the purposes to tonight's meeting is it to approve the funding? And it's the funding of the plans needed to put phase one to bid, right? Because
Yes.
a constructor,
Yes.
and the funding would be 1.2 million?
So it's to put phase one to bid and also to do further design development for the other areas. But yes, that's what it
Oh,
is.
so funding for putting out construction bid, okay.
Right.
And design development for phase two.
Yes.
And there's no phase three, there's just two phases.
That's how we're talking about it,
Okay.
but it's possible that phase two would be broken into multiple phases, but at this
Okay.
point, yes, that's.
And perhaps this has already been discussed, but I'm a newbie. So I heard 1.2 million.
Yep.
And where is that money coming from?
So that money is being, for tonight, is proposed as a transfer from the Del Webb Chauncey Lake Stabilization Fund.
Okay,
And what that is, just for folks who don't know, so when the Pulte development that's being built up there was first approved, it had a requirement for affordable housing. Because of several sort of constraints around that, they ended up going to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they asked for a variance or a waiver of that requirement. And the Board of Appeals granted that waiver, understanding that they would put money into this stabilization fund that the town meeting set up for affordable housing and to support seniors through capital projects and programming. So the total amount that will come into that fund is about $9 million. To date, the first $1.8 million was transferred by town meeting to the Affordable Housing Trust. Currently, there's a balance of $3.4 million. So we would transfer that 1.2 million tonight, if approved, from the stabilization fund to be used for this project.
So the stabilization fund, you said, is for affordable housing and for,
To support seniors through
Okay.
capital projects and programming. Hello, you're fine, that's fine.
So,
and then
Sorry.
then we'll get bids from the contractors. And does the select committee decide which contract to go with?
Well, so the municipal building committee will work with them on that, but we have a lot of requirements related to low bid rules and things like that, so we would have to follow that process.
And then the rest of the money, because we're actually doing the whatever's building, where does that come from?
So there's additional funds that would be in that stabilization account that could be accessed.
Okay.
And then there is, likely the balance of that would be a borrow, which would be become part of the budget in terms of debt service.
Okay,
The select board has said that they would sell this building, and so once this building was sold, the town meeting would have to take votes, but essentially you could reduce the borrow.
yeah,
You would have to borrow first, because we couldn't sell the building till the project was done.
right,
But you could you could use that fund,
yeah,
you could use the proceeds from this building to pay down the debt.
okay. What piqued my interest, you said tax burden, so
Yes.
I was like, oh,
Yeah.
nobody wants more taxes.
Sure.
But you can also, the town could also do a municipal bond.
Well, that's what it is, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I thought
sorry.
you meant like actually increasing the taxes, the
Well,
tax rate.
you would increase the taxes because we would have to pay down the bond.
Well,
so how much of the taxpayer is going to expect in their tax bill?
I can't answer that, because we haven't gotten to the point where we know what that number
And
is.
isn't that question gonna come up tonight?
The request isn't to fund the project, and the tax impact of tonight's article is zero, because it's an available fund. Yes.
I have a question about the library. How much of the library will be moved over? And a follow-up question is there a basement on this building?
No.
And when they did an assessment on the building, did they consider the load factor of books that will increase a load factor on the flooring of a building?
So there's no basement on the building. The library, we're still having conversations about whether or not that's gonna work for them.
Will they be on the second floor?
There's sort of two options, so we don't know. I expect that they would have to put some of their, but I think they're anticipating putting some of their books into storage, sort of regardless of where they end up, because it will likely be smaller than the current building. In terms of the load bearing, that wasn't a specific question, but given all of the exercise equipment that we've removed from the building, I don't think that's a concern.
In addition, that back area is the old loading dock, so I suspect they can
Yeah.
take the library.
So Christie, will moving the library into that space, because I know they're a little farther ahead than we are, will that impede the construction on the rest of it if they're in the back?
So they're not further ahead. actually. So the idea would be that we would go to the same town meeting, the annual town meeting in March to request funds for construction of this phase 1. And we've reduced the phase 1 to just be this lower level, which gives us the opportunity to consider this back part for the library, which would require some sort of construction wall. And I don't want to get too far ahead because we have to have these conversations and figure it out. Or they could be on the second floor, which isn't being disturbed except for if we do move forward with the staircase and the elevator. Yeah.
How is this gonna be presented tonight? Is it, I wouldn't assume that there was gonna be an entire presentation like this.
So my intention is to present some of these slides.
Okay.
But not all of them, to really sort of focus on what the request is tonight, which is that additional funding. I do think that giving sort of this visual helps people understand kind of the process that we're going. So that's on there. Those conceptual drawings I did include because I think that it just sort of gives the feel. I think it's hard to look at these. Some people are really good at that. It's hard to sort of envision what it'll look like, so I have some of those, but really much tighter presentation, yeah.
So you're not gonna cover the potential for future costs?
No, I am I'm gonna show those cost slides tonight.
And
Yeah.
if the taxpayers that are there see that as having an impact on their tax return, could they scuttle the phase 1 too?
What do you mean?
Well, if they say, gee, if we spend $10 million now, then we're gonna have to spend $15 million more in the future. But that $15 million isn't necessarily gonna come from available funds.
Oh,
It's gonna come from my taxes.
sure, yep, yeah, they could certainly vote it down tonight.
Yeah,
But just to be clear, we're not asking for $10 million tonight.
I heard that.
Okay,
But they're gonna see the potential for future.
sure, yep.
About a couple of suggestions on the slides. The number slide, even from here, I can't read any of the numbers. If you could make the dollar slide a little bigger somehow, bigger numbers on the same slide.
Well, they'll be on a bigger screen.
Well, it will be, but still, if you're on the back row there.
I couldn't
I
really.
usually sit in the
No, I need my
bottom
different
back row.
glasses to get everything.
You're talking about this,
Like that.
these
Right.
numbers.
Yeah.
I have all one.
Oh,
It looks like there's plenty of room to maybe make the
Well, it's a big screen.
bigger.
Yeah,
And
but
the
it doesn't make it doesn't necessarily make the numbers bigger,
But
being on the bigger
the other
screen.
suggestion on the renderings for the next time, that there was only one person in there that had a cane, for example. There was no one shown with a walker, no one shown with a wheelchair. And I think in some of those areas that had spaces, that big one, the big open area, but some of the tables and some of the, I could see putting a wheelchair like the ones some of the people here use.
So this is a disclaimer, so that's
I
not
understand.
necessarily what it's gonna look like, but I do think it's really important for everyone to understand, because I think this has come up before. When we do any building, not just a senior center, it is absolutely top of mind, the ADA requirements. So when we're working, even the town hall, the Forbes building, the fire station, all of those, when you work with the person who does the furniture, when you work with the architect for layout, it all has to meet all of those requirements. So I think it's a fair point to add that so people can see that it's being considered, but as a group, I think it's really important for you all to be spreading that message that we are absolutely required to follow ADA, which means
I hear what
accessibility.
you're saying, but I don't agree completely, because the ADA requirement for a library, they're not going to be planning for 10, 15 people with walkers and chairs at the same wheelchairs at the same time as in as you would in the senior center. Senior center, you have to expect a lot more
Sure.
people with those.
Yeah. But even in the town hall or things like that, like everything has to be able to fit someone to be able to maneuver between desks, to be able to maneuver in hallways and all of those things. So but showing that I think is helpful, so thanks for that.
So Christie, I think the 1.2 million is covered from, from the stabilization fund. Who is then responsible for figuring out how to fund the rest? Is that the finance director?
No, so I'll work with the finance director and the select board to propose how we would finance when we go to town meeting.
Okay.
And then but all of those decisions are the town meeting's decisions, because we can't move money from a stabilization fund or any other available fund or borrow without town meeting approval. So
I
I know that that's what you're saying, like, who's
No.
gonna make the recommendation? It's the select board,
Exactly.
myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there are various options.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
I was wondering whose responsibility is it to look into the options? Maybe it's only 2 options, but whose responsibility is it to do the research, present the options?
Yep.
And then we vote on it, but,
Right.
so it's you and the finance director
Yeah, and the select board.
and the select board?
Yep.
One more question. The coat closet, I couldn't quite tell if that was there in the front or not. It was one of the things that was mentioned several times during the charrettes, but yeah, the entrance there somewhere, I couldn't tell. And the other one was the custodian's office.
Yep, I think that.
Those are the two that I couldn't
Yeah,
quite
I
tell.
know it's
if
on
they were
there. I can't-
Yeah, I think it's
Did you-
right here.
Which one is that?
I think it's right here.
What?
The custodian
Co-
closet.
The custodian.
Custodian closet, yeah, and I think this is, I don't know, I'd have to look closer. But I think that's part of that next
Okay,
session,
those
is
are
to,
the two things that
two things that you think are missing.
I thought was supposed to be there.
Well, and don't forget, there's also space there for medical equipment, so we'll get our, we wouldn't have to share it with a coat closet again.
And there's no gift shop there, right?
Correct. I think there was, no.
So if this goes through tonight, when is the next, how long, what's the time frame? You go off and bid for different things, and they do the schematics and all that. Are we into 2026 before
No.
we get in there, or?
Oh, yeah, probably. So, because we would have to go to the March town meeting for the funding, and then they could begin. So this is sort of the next phase. Obviously, we're not doing an outreach meeting tonight. We're gonna do, but this was just a sort of a proposed. But it would get us January to the presentation, and then we'd be ready to receive the bid documents, so we could have those conversations about funding sources and be prepared for the March town meeting for phase 1.
I think I need my glasses again, but, so at what point are we putting the plans out to bid?
In January.
Okay, so plans go out to bid in January, and then you give contractors X amount of time to
Yep.
get back,
Yep.
okay?
Yes.
Is this what they now refer to as Plan 4?
That's what?
Plan 4?
Oh,
That was.
We have Plan 1, 2, and 3.
yeah, not really. So, I mean, so they were required, as part of their first phase, they were supposed to give us those 3 different options. And then getting feedback on those 3 different options created the preferred design. That preferred design included both the first floor and the second floor, not the entire thing, but more of the first floor and some of the second floor, based on sort of feedback about the cost and kind of thinking forward with the library. We've reduced that, so you could call it Plan 5 maybe, but I don't think we're referring to it as that. So I think we're gonna call it phase 1.
This was very helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Thank you.
Sure. So I know that the Recreation Commission is gonna get a similar presentation from the Recreation Director this afternoon. I think, if the article is approved, we'll pretty quickly be coming back out to confirm that phase one plan. And then planning for some additional outreach.
So the confirming of that plan to get the final schematic, diagram, whatever, to get it out for bid, how is that going to be approved? Is it only going to be by town management, or?
We're gonna reach back out we're gonna do one more public outreach to confirm the plan. Cause I think as I heard all of you saying, you saw it was presented at the select board meeting and a couple other meetings, but it's hard to see on the TV. So we wanna do a dedicated meeting to confirm that plan, get some feedback on tweaks, and then they have to schematic designs, they have to fully design it for the bid document.
But no more town meeting-wide type of meeting, not a town meeting.
Not a town meeting, that's right, yep. The next town meeting would be a request for construction funding.
Is there any anticipation that this will be rejected tonight?
There's always the possibility, yep.
And if it is?
I mean, if it's rejected, it's sort of back to the drawing board because we own a 64,000 square foot building. Half of it is completely unoccupied and not necessarily usable. We also own this building and would continue to use it. So, certainly we need to figure out how to make that work. I guess I would say, if it's rejected, we would have to rethink the layout of the senior center, because that's the phase one, and that's what would be bid on using the funding. So, but there's always that possibility. So we'll just respond as we need to, and we'll do it all together. I mean, you have representation. I think that's really important. On every call that we have, Alma's on the call. Often other people from her office are on that call. We've come to you a few times. We've had meetings here. So, I think we've done a lot of outreach and engagement, and we want it to sort of, especially for the Council on Aging and the Recreation Commission, it's your building. So we want to be partners in these conversations.
Anybody else?
No. I was gonna say, I'm sure it'll be a robust meeting.
So,
I'd like to be home before midnight,
I know,
thank you very
I know.
much.
So we're gonna be voting on this?
Well, we did already.
Well, I think you
last
took a
meeting.
vote
We did that
at the
last
last
meeting.
meeting to
Yeah.
support it, so
We
you
did.
don't necessarily need to do that again.
To support. So I don't think there's anything else for us to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen.
We need a motion to
Yes.
adjourn.
Yes.
Second?
Oh, sure.
You go and John.
Well, John and Al.
Attacked.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Just forward.
And don't forget, the meeting starts at 7 tonight.
Start.